Hi Valerie, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. A little bit overwhelmed, but good otherwise.
Overwhelmed, so what's bringing you in today?
Um, I'm just trying to figure out a little bit of this balance with grad school. And I mean, there's always that thought in the back of your mind, like, should I really be doing this? Is there something else I could have done? But then when I'm there and I'm in classes, um, I feel confident and sure. And it seems like kind of like when I get home and I have all the work to do, I'm just like, why am I doing this? Like, is there something else I could have done that would have been maybe easier and kind of like just as good, I
hmm
guess?
So what I'm hearing is you're trying to find this balance between grad school and these other responsibilities, and there's kind of this little bit of doubt that's creeping in the back of your mind about, am I making the right decision? Is what I'm really doing right now the best option for me? Is that correct?
Yeah, because I had like the job I had before, it was good. I didn't love it. But I guess sometimes I wonder if it could have been enough and if I could be happy just doing other things and maybe not putting so much pressure on like happiness in your job and more focus on being happy outside your job. But I don't know if that would have been good either because your job is just so much of your day. So I don't know if that would have been possible with that job. Um, or really with anything kind of in that same career. So
hmm
I guess that's why I chose to go to grad school to make sure that I never felt that way again in a job.
hmm So you're feeling unsure of your decision right now.
Yeah, because sometimes I just wonder if like it could have been easier because I mean, I see some people who are just so happy kind of just living really simply and just kind of doing what they love but not having, you know, gone to undergrad or gone to grad school. And I just wonder if, I would have been perfectly happy maybe doing the same thing, or if maybe it's just not me and I am doing the right thing, which I do think I'm doing the right thing. But I just get curious sometimes that maybe there could have been a cheaper way to go
hmm
about everything.
hmm Have you thought about, it sounds like you've thought about what would it be like if you didn't go to grad school?
Hmm. I guess I would probably, well, maybe still be in my same job. Maybe not because everybody got laid off. So that's part of what pushed me in this direction. Um, I probably would have found, I was a paralegal, so I probably would have found like a law firm or another corporation to work for. And I feel like I would have still been learning a lot, but it just would have been okay. I mean, part of what I hated about it is it's so much time sitting in front of a computer, and even with a standing desk, and it's just standing in front of a computer, and it was just like I'm such a busybody and I'm a dancer by nature, and that was a huge thing for me. But I just wonder if maybe I could have found better ways of dealing with it, um, just in order to kind of not have to go through this huge expense of getting my master's.
hmm So my other question is so over here you've thought about what it's like or what the possibility of not going to grad school would be. And now you're in
Mm-hmm.
grad school. What are your hopes when you finish grad school?
Kind of just having a job and a schedule that I've always wanted. Some of my best jobs have been ones where you have kind of a unique schedule, where sometimes you work on the weekends, but you have a day off during the week. Um, some place where I'm kind of out and about all day, so finding not necessarily one company to work for, um, but finding different ways of bringing my services different places. So visiting different schools to do dance therapy or counseling with kids,
hmm
um, working with the elderly a little bit. So I just kind of envision just a much more dynamic day where I have control over my schedule. Um, kind of similar from like, if you're able to work from home, there's a little more flexibility there. I just feel like with the direction I'm heading, I look for more flexibility and kind of being out and about more.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're wanting that aspect of control in your life and stability in your life that you didn't really have before. Is that correct?
Yeah. And also something that I really feel like fits me better. Like I said, I've always been kind of a busybody, so just kind of like sitting stuck to my desk is really tough. And I know there'll be some of that, and there's, obviously, like client records and everything that you have to keep track of. And so I'm not expecting like no computer work, but sometimes I think like had I stayed on my other path, I feel like it would have driven me crazy. Just like being stuck to your computer the whole day.
Yeah. And I think that's totally natural and normal that everybody goes through that feeling of, what if I did this? It's that wondering, like, what if I stayed on that path, or what if I made that choice? I think that's a totally normal human experience to have that curiosity. I think that's part of what makes us human is curiosity. So I don't know if that makes you feel a little bit better in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is absolutely normal. My question is like, how are you feeling right now that you've kind of heard that?
I think good. And I think the more I think about it and picture myself staying on my other path, I'm kind of remembering all the reasons why I did choose this path. I think it's hard to place so little emphasis on your job, which takes up so many hours of your day. And the thought of having a job that was just okay and trying to find like happiness outside of that, I did try it, and it's really hard because your job is 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and that's just so much of your life. So I think it's kind of like reminding me why I chose to go down this path, kind of realizing how important those 8 hours a day are. You can't really, I guess you can't really like just supplement. You can't have like a terrible job and supplement with like volunteer outside work. It can help, but ultimately your whole day is that job. And so if you hate it, then that's really difficult.
So it sounds to me like you're kind of discovering and reminding yourself like what you hold important, and what you need in your life or your work environment to succeed for yourself. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, because I did try. I definitely made an effort to see. I looked for other jobs, just to see if maybe it was the place. But I think once I realized it was the career path that wasn't working, I kind of knew that I had to make a change. So.
Do you feel a little more rooted, like, or supported, feel better about the decision you've made, even if it gets overwhelming sometimes?
Yeah, and I think also rooted is an interesting word. I've kind of felt like throughout this process, I'm kind of getting back to my roots in a way. I did study dance therapy in my undergrad, so I guess I kind of always knew in the back of my mind that I would get back to it one day, but grad school is really intimidating financially. It's really intimidating time-wise. So I think that's maybe why it took me so long. And I think also, I guess part of it is like I needed to know for sure that that was the right thing. And like I said, I did try other things and nothing just felt like it fit right. And so I think that's kind of when I knew that it was time to get back to heading in the direction that I'm supposed to be heading in, that I kind of had started years ago.
Has there ever been a time in the past that you've experienced not really necessarily knowing what to do, weighing out decisions, and then choosing something that you felt a little more comfortable in, even if there was some discomfort around it? Was there ever a time in your past that you can recall?
Yeah, one of the biggest decisions I made was my choice to move from New York back home to Connecticut. And that was a really hard decision because I felt like so much of my identity was kind of like roped into me living in the city. And even with my family, like, oh, Valerie, yeah, she's in the city. Like, I kind of my entire life wanted to live there. And so after like 4 or 5 years of being there, kind of like giving that part of my identity up and moving back home was a really hard thing. And it was a weird thing to do too, because I knew like who I was there, and it was just weird because it's like, okay, so now who am I here? But it was all for good reasons. My job was changing and my sister had her second baby, so I just knew I needed to be closer to home. But that was kind of a huge part of my identity and a huge shift to make, was kind of giving up New York and like how that was such a huge part of me for so long.
Mm-hmm. What was that like? What was it like for you when you're talking about this? Like, how are you feeling in your body right now?
I guess I feel a little bit like when I think of New York, I kind of think of like, oh, it's still home a little bit. But I also think of like all the stress of it and where I'd be. And I feel like it's similar. Like I would just kind of be living there for the sake of living there and not actually happy with my job or happy with how much it costs. And none of it was making sense anymore. I felt like I kind of was living in two places. I was going home so much because I'm close to my family, but I was also like paying obviously like a ton of rent to live there. So yeah, it was weird. It was a weird decision to
Felt
make,
like
but
you were, sorry.
Yeah, it was definitely like the right one though.
So you felt like you were kind of going through the emotions, but your heart really wasn't in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of felt like, and I also, there's too, like with the city and how stressful it is, like I love that place and I didn't want to get to a point where I hated it and then left. And I've had friends who've done that before. They're like, just make sure you leave before you hate it, because I know some people who've like stayed long past they felt like when they should have, and they ended up hating it and they don't go back. And I didn't want it to have that feeling. I wanted it to be like a good part of my life to remember. And so I think once I kind of got that feeling like, okay, this is too much, it doesn't feel right anymore, I should leave now. And then I did. I kind of like followed that instinct.
It sounds to me like you had this past experience of, feeling kind of like what I said earlier, going through these emotions, but your heart's not in it, and knowing that you felt like you needed a change. It sounds like you're similarly going through something now with grad school, where even though it's kind of you're unsure about doing it, it's better than going to what you had before previously with going through the emotions and not feeling right. It sounds like even though there's some curiosity about what could have been, you're starting to feel, like you had mentioned too, a little more rooted in what's going on now in grad school. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that feels really accurate. Like I definitely know that I didn't make those decisions lightly. And so even though I look back now and I want to make sure, oh, was that the right thing? Like I remember how much thought and time and energy I put into it. So I just need to remember that sometimes. And I think it's just because grad school can feel so overwhelming. And a lot of times you're like, why? Why am I doing this? This is so expensive. This is so much. And so it's easy to kind of fall back into like the what ifs, like what if I just stayed? Like what if I just kept doing what I was doing? Like would it have been good enough? And I think I already answered that question, because no, it wasn't good enough. That's why I made this decision. So I just have to kind of like remind myself of that sometimes.
Yeah, and I think there's something important to be said about the power that comes with the fact that you've made that decision. And you get to make those choices. You had that choice in the past to live in New York or to come home to Connecticut. And you had that choice again with grad school. Do you stay in something that you're not comfortable with, or do you pursue grad school? I mean, you've made that choice and you continue to have, I think there's some power and weight in reminding yourself that you chose to do something that you want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that is important to remember. And even in the process too, I think that the option of just kind of staying where I wasn't appealing. Because even still, as close as I am with my family, I think the thing is, I'm close with them, but I'm really not close with Connecticut. And so I think that was also the appeal of grad school, was like, oh, I get to move and kind of maybe feel like I can find a place where I feel like I fit again. Even though it's weird how opposite it is from New York up here in New Hampshire, but it's also good because it's just, I don't want to feel like I have to settle somewhere just because that's where my family is.
Right.
So it's kind of been nice to kind of discover a new place that's comfortable and where I feel like I can kind of have like a community of people and support and still also be like really close to my family.
Good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, it sounds like you've really given some thought about this, and you really reminded yourself of where you're at and why you're here. And I think that's a great experience to have and a great thing to remind yourself of. And again, I think that's still really powerful, and you should take pride in that and being able to recognize that you did make that choice and that was your choice, your power. And yeah, but I think that's great. And do you have anything else that you'd like to share today? We're coming to the end of our time.
No, I think that's it. I think I just feel better kind of reminding myself that I've already made the decision, so there's really not much I can do about it now. So, but I think also reminding myself that I've gone through this process before, and kind of going through it again is kind of a waste. And I don't need to do that with my energy.
Yeah. And I just wanted to check in before we go to, like, how are you feeling now in your body?
Just more relaxed a little bit, like I could breathe a little bit better, a little bit more at ease.
Good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Perfect. Well, that's about all we have time for today. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again next week. And I appreciate you taking the time and sharing those experiences with me today.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks.
Bye.